On this episode of TAGSPodcast, episode 649, we'll be talking about the CEO of Nasty Pig's message to live your gayest life right now. Is Trump and RFK coming for our poppers? Is PrEP being threatened of coverage before it hits the Supreme Court in April? Plus, we're giving dating advice best practices. Well, let's get into episode 649. Okay, what is going on? You are listening to Tags Podcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. This is episode 649. I am your host, Stevie V, in studio on a St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day,
Happy
Lincoln.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yay, green.
Yes, exactly. Sitting next to me, sipping a glass of wine as we record this on St. Patrick's Day. Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm here. I'm queer, and I'm getting used to it, okay?
Is anybody alphabet green today? No.
No, unfortunately.
You know, actually, Diego, as he sits over there, for some reason is all into St. Patrick's Day. He went over to St. Patrick's and prayed
Oh,
at
nice.
church
That's
a little bit
beautiful.
earlier, and he kind of got me
for
into
you.
it.
That's great.
Because he had the parade on earlier today, and I was looking at it seemed very festive this year. Not a lot. I didn't hear a lot of drunken madness as I used to think
Well,
of
not
the
yet.
holiday. Not
It's
yet.
coming.
Well, it did. A lot of people were celebrating over the weekend, so I maybe saw a little
During
bit
my
of it.
walk
Okay,
here,
yeah, definitely.
During my walk here, there's 2 Irish bars, and they were starting to fill up. It's going to
Okay.
be a fun night.
Cooper's over here.
And the one on 19.
I just wanted to shout out, though.
Do you want to introduce me?
I was
or
just
no?
about to say, wait, did you introduce
did?
Lincoln?
No, you didn't.
Oh, I said Lincoln.
No.
Happy
No,
St.
you
Patrick's Day. I
It's
said
okay.
at the beginning, but hi, Lincoln. Welcome.
okay, hi, I'm
here. I think I said it really low, but I said Happy St. Patrick's Day,
Oh, no, it's
Lincoln. But yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Of course. And I wanted to just shout out to Staten Island, a place that's, for those of you that don't know, is typically pretty conservative. They celebrated St. Patty's Day parade earlier in the month, at the beginning of it. And this year in particular, LGBT groups march under the banner, their own banner. It's a local Staten Island group, and they did it proudly against some local Catholic churches that did not want them. And this one particular church basically said, oh, no, well, then we won't be a part of the parade. But it was kind of a big deal knowing that Staten Island is one of the most conservative boroughs here in New York. And I just wanted to shout it out because it's been a long time. And Casey Hankins, he's a 32-year-old organizer in the queer community, was thrilled to see parade officials finally come around. And I think we need these wins at a time when things are going south. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything to say about it, but just yay for that inclusion.
Yeah, yay for the inclusion. I was thinking as far as talking about drinking and St.
Yeah, go
Patrick's
ahead.
Day. I found out today we're losing an institution in Chelsea. Barracuda is closing at the end of the month. My friend who's a bartender there sent a thing that said that all the construction next door at the theater has really rocked the building, and it's not cool. So they'll be closing at the end of the month. So if you're in New York, stop by Barracuda, give those bartenders 20s, hands over fists. I think most of them will go up to Industry in Midtown.
Okay.
And if you've been to New York and been there, it was kind of a little Chelsea institution. And
Right?
it's sad
It's
to
been there
see
so
any
long.
gay bar close these days anywhere.
They've been threatening formerly G Lounge, but is now Rebar. We, of course, did our live broadcast there several years ago, and I was talking to one of the owners, and they were supposed to be closing that down, but I work out often across the street at a Crunch Fitness, and it's been open.
No, it's
so-
good to go. They just got
Yeah.
bought by one of their original owners that had left.
Oh.
And now he's back and the other owners are gone. So it's a new ownership, but it is still under the Rebar.
Michael McGraw?
Or I'm not sure
Okay,
of it. I
yeah.
don't remember anyone's
We're getting a
name,
little
so-
local here, but...
And it's okay. It
That's
can be
okay.
local. People visit New York all the time.
Lincoln's
one of-
got the inside scoop. I love it.
Well, one of the local establishments also that was on 19th Street, but is international, is Nasty Pigs. And the CEO just wrote a heartfelt letter, as he often does, to everybody that follows Nasty Pig. And he starts off his letter, and we'll discuss in a second, basically as he's been traveling all of last year to release his book, Sodomy Gods, which actually I want to read. It sounds pretty interesting. But he got to meet a lot of people face to face, and one thing that he heard a lot over and over again was how much these letters he sends out, because he does these letters to his community, how they always manage to strike the right chord. And he's been thinking a lot about what our community has been going through. He says, you can feel numb, do something, anything that makes you feel powerful, do things that make you feel so fucking gay, he says, and strong that rainbows come shooting out of your asshole. Maybe that's boycotting a corporation who stripped away protections of gay people. Maybe it's making a donation or marching to support a cause that's close to your queer heart. Maybe it's putting on a conspicuous crop top, Kodi, and going to brunch, or closing the curtains and blasting abracadabra as you learn the choreo in a nasty jockstrap. Pig jockstrap. Maybe you just need to get in a sling and connect intimately with like-minded people, finding strength in numbers and Hummers and strangers and lovers. I don't care what you do to feel gay. If it makes you feel sexy and empowered, then do it. And spades, don't you waste any energy caring about what others think of your chosen remedy to chaos. There's nothing illegal about being you. Gather up your intellect and your emotions and your spirituality and your sexuality and combine them all into one powerful light that will outshine all the fucking darkness of the day. You're so fucking gay, and that superpower cannot be taken away from you by anyone ever. Yours in sodomy, David Lauterstein, or Lauterstein, depending on how you pronounce that. But I do think we wanted to start the show off a little bit positive, and I do think this letter is, we're going to talk about some things that have really threatened our community in recent days, not just weeks, about things being threatened. We'll get into that in a minute. But when you hear a letter of empowerment from somebody that really is a leader for many in the community, and a lot of people love Nasty Pig, what are your thoughts on Just Be So Fucking Gay, Lincoln?
Oh, I think it's very appropriate. I don't know how much of a leader he is, but he's the owner of a very gay-centric, gay-focused company, which I have plenty of, and he was on my same street, like you said, on 19th Street back in the day, and both of them are very lovely people who I've met socially, and they're great people, and I'm glad he's setting a mark very high to be the best you can be, which is where he should be, and then it'll just kind of spill from there how people take it or not take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's great, but it's all positive and be as gay as you want to be. I just hope people don't take it to be gay in people's faces with a point, and he didn't really strike that tone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, aside from the crop chops and
he was
all
more
that,
balanced to me than that.
I do feel like we're seeing pockets of Kodi and this is a good message, I think, to somebody that a lot of people do look for inspiration, even if it isn't a clothing brand. And I think these are the messages that we really need right now. One of his main messages was do something. And at least here on this show, we are beacons of often just disseminating information that is going on that affects our community, but we also share our stories on a weekly basis, and we have a lot of listeners that listen to us. And so I take that message to heart because when I prepare for these shows, I am always thinking of our audience and the impact that we can have and being somewhat of a beacon of positivity, especially during times like this. But when you hear a message coming from David Lauterstein about be as fucking gay as you can, what are your thoughts about this, and what do you think?
I mean, I always am, and I've promoted this message as well. So I applaud him for getting out there. I know that people are looking up to him. They're coming to him in airports and whatnot, and they're telling him how influential he is. So I think it's amazing, and it's a great message. I was kind of curious about what Lincoln was saying about don't be gay in people's faces. I would like for you to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, there's having someone with a Trump hat kind of in my face right now. I don't want to enjoy that. Someone being overly gay, obnoxiously gay all over, spouting it out in an inappropriate way. I don't want that either.
I think things like the original example that I gave of the St. Paddy's Day parade in Staten Island with the inclusion of actually LGBT group is a really great organized, to your point, way to be as gay as you want to be. And that's we're starting to see allyship step up to the plate, and that's really beautiful. There's a huge in the UK as festival season begins, an actual grinder inclusion of LGBTQ. Where you can hang out, and that's the first time ever, and it's going to be as gay, they say, as ever before. And I think our allyship is really stepping up, and those are the places that we can really show our gayness, if you will, with rainbows coming out of our asses. And I think it's really great to see. But we do got to stand up in many ways, and when rights are literally being ticked away left and right.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We do not get special privileges for being gay.
Nobody does. You don't get special privileges for any. Like, I feel the lack of respect for humanity that Trump has brought into our culture and our democracy, and the psychology of what's being released now, depending on what you look at.
Yeah.
There are people reading in other threads the exact opposite. It's all going great, and this is exactly according to plan. I don't want them in my face, right?
Yeah.
They feel they're right, and I don't want. I want everyone to get
Be
along.
nice. Yes.
Well, one thing,
I agree
or
with
at least act like we can be normal.
Well, one thing that just happened over the last week after we went off the air on Wednesday for Tags Live was Trump and maybe RFK, who is now in charge of things like CDC and so forth. Trump is coming for our poppers as major producer closes amid the FDA crackdown. And we have, shout out to Sinfully on Instagram, who's one of our listeners that often puts you, Kodi, and I in a thread.
In a loop, honey.
He was the first to tell us that Double Scorpio, which is a company that sells, aside from just poppers, things like lube, clothing, accessories, was raided. The popular brand was raided and announced that it is stopping all operations following an FDA search and seizure at its offices. And the FDA is currently under the of RFK, who here in the U.S. in the past said that he believes poppers causes AIDS. So I don't think it's any coincidence that RFK now in this particular position, who has said things like that I just mentioned causes AIDS, that a small company like Double Scorpio was raided and had to close down. Well, we decided to put it to the test, and Diego and I went to our local Rainbow Market right before this show to see just how
I thought we were all going to do poppers. I got very excited all of a sudden. I didn't understand what was happening.
Are we doing
We may or may
They make
not
me
have
soft.
some.
I can't do
We go as far as wine on this show.
Let's start
least.
doing poppers instead of
Oh
wine.
my
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Oh, Lord. We decided to see and go undercover and went into Rainbow. There used to be two stores on 8th Avenue. One was called Blue Zone or Blue something. That closed down. That was my
Blue
favorite.
Store.
Blue Store. That was my favorite out of the
It's
two
closed?
stores. Yeah, a couple years ago.
About a year ago.
As Diego reminded me. He's like, where have you been? And we went to the Rainbow Market, which is formerly across the street. And I said, but we're not going to buy
Rainbow
any
Station.
Thank you.
Oh my God, he's lived here how long? I'm just saying.
Girl, I didn't
And
even
the
know
Blue Store is
was
becoming a
closed.
cannabis store, by the way.
Got
just
it.
FYI.
Yeah.
But moving across, Rainbow Station, Scorpio poppers, yes?
So we walk in there, and it's filled with every kind of popper you could ever, or vacuum cleaner, if that's what they're calling it.
It's
that you could
video
want.
head
And I
cleaner.
still,
What is happening right
and
now?
regardless,
Do you even know Popper
I
is
don't.
Boo?
I don't really.
Do you even watch the show Tamar?
He's
But
done
the
too
thing
many.
is, here's the thing. I still had that same feeling that when I walk into those stores that I'm being judged, and the guy was like boosted up on this pedestal where he like cashes you out, and he was like looking at us the minute we walked in. I was like, oh, there's that feeling again that I hate that whenever I walk
Are you
into these
Catholic?
stores. Yeah, I have Catholic.
We grew up
A lot of
Catholic.
Catholic.
I
Yeah.
walk into those stores and I just wonder, do I have enough singles? It's two different.
Wait, you didn't
Did
grow up
anyone get
Catholic?
that joke? Because there's the booths and the
The
back.
Oh,
booth. I used to
yeah.
love
Singles.
the booth.
Yeah.
I'm
baby.
sitting at a table where no one understands.
Diego's
I
laughing
got
over
you.
there.
Diego's in the corner
I
going,
got
I
it.
have singles.
Producer
Fine.
Diego's laughing, but I have to say, filled with all different brands of poppers, and it hasn't reached the retailer, at least here in New York.
Well, wait, this was one company, though.
This was-
There were
this
norm.
is-
Was that company there or no?
Was double Scorpio there?
Double Scorpio, we didn't see.
Okay, so
But
maybe
we saw
that one
a million
is-
other brands, and they're also a reseller. These are the ones that are actually making them. And
Right.
So, what do you think about this? Like focus on coming for poppers.
It means you need to stock up.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that's all, right? I mean, I could sit here and say, well, poppers are probably not that healthy for you, so we should all stop doing them as gay men. But that's bullshit, because I love poppers and they're great, and you're going to be able to buy them no matter what happens. Gays will find poppers.
And here's to your point.
I'm okay with Mr. S. They make their own. We're going to do okay.
And to your point,
they're the best.
And to your point, in 2021, the FDA was warning against poppers, and so this isn't all under FDR or RF.
He's
RFD.
literally having a stroke tonight. RFK.
RFK. I was
RFK.
like, he got me confused.
You know what it is? I have so much information that I'm trying to get
I'm
out
the
today.
one not drinking wine. Just so we're all
Yeah,
clear.
there's just
I've
so
already
much
had 2
information to
glasses,
get out. But
darling.
I'm about the story, and I got
It's
the story.
perfect.
I just
I love
don't
it.
get names right, but
Yeah,
I get the
that's
okay.
the intention is there,
We're
and
here
I've got
with
a
you.
lot of information, y'all, to get out today. But RFK, this came before him, and does it
That they were not good for you.
that they were potentially not good for. We all know that.
You
though.
all know they're not good
We
for
all
you.
They're
know
not
that-
causing
Well, we know
AIDS,
they're
though.
not-
That's not
Well,
when that
Oh, that was.
What do you have
Yeah.
to say about all that?
He's an idiot. He makes my brain hurt. He makes such ludicrous
He has an earworm.
Well,
statements.
He has an
Hey,
earworm, you
but-
guys.
Just sorry, as a 55-year-old gay man who grew up in San Francisco, there was a moment during the crisis
But that's-
where everyone stopped poppers because we didn't know.
Yeah, and that's-
so there is a
misinformation.
kernel of truth back
Well-
in the day that has now been turned into.
There was a fear.
There was a fear of like stop
But
poppers.
there
There was
wasn't
there was
the
any
cause
truth. Exactly.
that-
no, there
Yeah.
wasn't any cause there.
He
It
said
was
that
not true.
Caused, yeah. So,
But he doesn't have proof either.
Well, there's no proof to have because
Right.
we've learned
What I'm
things.
saying
You're
is they
right.
took a
In the
kernel of ignorance way back in the day that happened
The
in
fear.
the community, and they've turned it into.
It's an old wives' tale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's an old wife now. And he
Yes.
needs to be retired because he is a stuttering, blithering idiot. I said it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, he needs to be retired because it's just, he
He just got his job. He's
he
not
spreads
getting
so much
retired.
misinformation, though, and
I
it's
know.
just ridiculous.
what do you guys
So-
think of the whole fact that when they're coming for things, they're cutting government programs left and right? Why is poppers at the forefront? Is it just because of him? I mean, really,
So-
do any of us know anybody that has died recently of poppers? We're going to talk about somebody that has
No,
died of
it's
far
not.
more serious drugs, but
Okay,
why
so
this?
because it's a mess. From what I have researched and what I have read in my news sources, is that they're just gutting everything, and they're not doing it with that idea of a scalpel. They're just doing it. Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but you know the plane situation?
Girl.
With the planes
Sure.
not being, okay? Part of the reason that's happening is they did an algorithm search for anything with the word trans in it, and transportation came up, and they fired a bunch of people.
Oh, my God.
So if people in the transportation sector are being fired because trans is in their bio, we can't go down all these rabbit holes of, is it poppers because JFK said it? It's a mess.
RFK, but yes.
They wanted to make, you're right, they wanted to make, the reason he got elected is because a lot of people in the country think we need to crash and burn everything and start over. So that's what he's doing.
How much sense does that make?
That's
Number
what he's
one.
doing.
So number 2 for me, you just kind of proved the point that I was going to make. They are at war with the LGBTQ plus community. Them Googling
Yes.
the trans and then firing all the trans people, the transportation people because of that, that's absolutely backwards. That doesn't make any sense. So I feel like the whole popper situation came from the initial war that is against the LGBTQ plus community.
And to stay on topic with that, at war is coming up in April. Is the Supreme Court will actually hear a case to actually get rid of things like PrEP that is saving our lives, and the Supreme Court's actually gonna hear a case on, I think it's the U.S. Court of Appeals. The Supreme Court is scheduled for August 21st to actually hear cases on whether or not insurance companies should provide life-saving, as we know, preventative care like PrEP, PrEP, and so forth. And it's reaching now. I don't know. There's been a ton of organizations that are stepping up to the plate that are warning against this, but there are a lot of justices on the Supreme Court that have stated before, Clarence Thomas in particular, that have said that he would like to get rid of gay marriage, things like this. And so it's not that far to believe that they would. First of all, they're hearing the case, but does this worry you, even Lincoln, when you hear that this is actually this? Now, forget about poppers, but PrEP is actually saving lives on a day-to-day basis.
Does this worry me? Yes, of course. Does this surprise me? No, not at all. Trump appointed a bunch of Republican MAGA judges to the court systems throughout our country. That's how these cases are going to get to the Supreme Court. And I'm sure you don't follow Liz Cheney, someone that I now do respect and do follow because I need to hear, and maybe everyone does. I hope everyone does. Anyway, she said something recently that is just the truth. He wants to tear everything down so he can declare a state of emergency and then take over full power. Much like Hitler did in only 52 days in Germany.
Yeah.
So we could all freak out about anything we want to freak out about. There is a bigger thing there that we cannot control, and people who know these things are trying their best to reverse them, to stop them, to slow them down. I hope, don't take this the wrong way, they go into every popper's factory and do an inspection and spend their time doing that and not taking over our democracy.
I agree.
Yeah.
So great, but all of this is smoke and mirrors for a bigger picture. And we can either expend all of our energy in these small things, which are very much we're talking about, don't get me wrong, but in the bigger picture, we need to hold on. Like, our seatbelts have to be double as on.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think we have time to fag out in front of people. I don't think we have time to do things that are irresponsible for our own mental health and making other people's lives harder, because it is going to come down. And they still separate trans from everyone else in our community. So we have to give extra attention to the trans people. Yep. We have to, of course, know in our mind that we're all one. And hopefully, much like the compassion and empathy that came out with the AIDS crisis with Elizabeth Taylor and all that, because trans and we're all lumped together, straight people around our country will go, hey, this isn't fair to anyone. My gay cousin can't get married because I thought it was just trans. You know what I mean? I hope they're going to implode themselves with all of this behavior because it's fucking scary.
Yeah, and Kodi, you know, when the global health market, when the World Health Organization hears stories like this that actually affect, you know, the World Health Organization have predicted that in the near future, we could end AIDS based on things like PrEP, PEP, and things that actually have been proven to prevent HIV. When they hear things like this, that potentially the Supreme Court in America is actually potentially going to hear a case that could get rid of providing, because nobody could afford PrEP for what it really costs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't afford it. It's just like, no. I mean, when they hear things like that, that sets off red flags. What do you say to this when, like, that the Supreme Court is now going to hear cases like this, but it's alarming global markets like the World Health Organization?
Yeah, it's alarming me. So I'm aligned with the WHO, because for the Supreme Court to be hearing a case like this, as far as something that is life-saving for the entire community and the world at large, because straight people are affected by this as well. It's not just a gay disease. It's not something that is singular to our community. And the more that people are recognizing this and that they are doing their due diligence in order to protect themselves, the better off we all will be. And I don't know why they don't understand that. I don't know if the science is too much for them. Maybe they don't have a lot of IQ going on.
Well, it's what they said they would do when you read that Project 2025. So a lot of this isn't really surprising. I think we are surprised because it's trickling down to not just trans, but also our gay,
I'm not
our health. And I'm not really surprised either. And when you think that it's a 4-year term. It's scary because the amount of damage that you can do in 4 years is insurmountable, and we're seeing it right on. And how many days are we into this administration?
I don't know. I was going to say something else,
but say something else. That was a rhetorical question.
I know that we're a gay podcast, and I know our focus. But just remember, the first thing that they did was they took all the funding out of Africa for AIDS medication.
Yeah.
So if you don't keep the medication going in Africa, then it will spread back into our society, which has nothing to do with being gay anymore at all. So they've already done it. That's done on a global scale. I mean, I'm glad we're bringing it up because obviously people here are on PrEP and on these medications. And listen, if the worst case scenarios, we're going to have to put a condom on it for a while, right?
Yeah, right. I mean,
STDs and everything else.
We're just going to have to go back to the 90s.
You have to stop and go, the world happens to all of us.
Yeah.
You can't just sit and point and say, oh, well, at least it's not me.
Can I rewind my age back to the 90s too?
Sorry, Kodi, can't help you on that one. But just taking a quick break from Tags Podcast to let you know that you should head over to our Tags Patreon community where you can grab a free account and get behind the scenes coverage that you won't get on any of our social media. Head over to patreon.com/TAGSPodcast. You can also grab a tier, and when you grab a tier, you're supporting Tags Podcast. But wait, you can also buy individual posts and know that you are supporting Tags Podcast. So go ahead and head over to patreon.com/TAGSPodcast. Moving on to somebody that was near and dear to a lot of people, the Viviennes, she went by. She was the UK winner of Drag Race.
The very first one.
Had such a huge...
Oh, was it the first one? I didn't know that.
The Drag Race UK,
she was the first winner. Oh, that's cool.
The Viviennes was very close to RuPaul and also was very open about her drug addiction throughout the years and was very outspoken about that and her suffering throughout it. Well, recent autopsy has reported that it was ketamine that was the cause of her cardiac arrest. And I actually, over the weekend, there's Nat Geo, that station. I often go down a rabbit hole of watching Nat Geo, and they do things like where they seize drugs at the terminals, and there's these series that you watch, and I love these shows
on National Geographic.
Oh yeah, it's this whole there's tons of there's this woman Marianne, and she follows like drug lords, and they give her access, and I love those kinds of shows. And then there's other shows where they're actually at various airports where they're seizing drugs, and I'm always like obsessed with these kind of shows. But one of the shows that I was watching over the weekend was the incredible impact, sadly, of ketamine and how it's infiltrated not just gay community, but just in general. It's surpassing, and to see that the Vivienne, well, one of the good things that's come out of it, and then we'll discuss, is her family is setting up a whole new awareness campaign working with a UK-based company that will raise awareness of just the dangers and pitfalls of ketamine. And I think that's a really good thing. But when you hear this about the Viviennes and her passing and just how ketamine is such a pervasive drug within our community, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? First, I can't get over it that National Geographic is more than just zebras and shit. So that's really kind of blowing my mind.
I'm like obsessed with, but it's also good because it shows the pitfalls and the downfalls. Like, don't do this. Don't become a mule in your country.
We watch very different TV.
No, I watch all kinds of shows.
That's crazy.
This is one of my shows.
That's cool.
Don't become a mule. Put that in the promo, okay?
It could be our new T-shirt. Don't become a mule.
It's awful. I won't bore you anymore with these, but it's just like turn it on and you will see what I'm talking about.
All right, so this for me is very sad. Of course, I adore the Vivienne. She was, she was a brilliant drag queen. So this is very saddening to me. I know about her struggles with ketamine, and it is really like you said, pervasive in our community. So I think that this should be a red flag, a sign for us as a community to get a hold of this, just like it has been for other drugs that have been in our community.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I mean, I remember ketamine in the 90s and people offering it to me, and somebody literally put it up my nose, and I think I told this story a long time ago. I was a go-go dancer, and I was like, no, and I went up my nose, and I had to get on stage, and I was in a K-hole, as they call it. I was so pissed off. My friend had to get me off stage and whisk me off, and I was just, and ever since, in a weird way, I'm so glad I had that experience because it frightened me. I didn't want to do it in the first place, but then I did do it, and because I went into a K-hole, I'm like, never again. But it's become so pervasive, this drug, and sadly we lose people like the Viviennes, Lincoln.
You know me, always with questions. So, first of all, my heart goes out to I'm not a drag race person, but my heart goes out, and especially a talented drag queen is fabulous. This was recreational ketamine overdose, period. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Because Matthew Perry died of ketamine.
Which turned into...
Which was a doctor, and I have friends that use...
Abused.
Right, over-diagnosed or whatever. But I have friends that go to ketamine therapy and get a lot of it. I actually have some people in my family that do that.
Well, ecstasy used
At
to
Kaiser
be... Ecstasy used to be
Permanente.
legal.
Correct. So...
Where are these doctors?
Well, that's where ecstasy came from. It was from psychiatric.
Can I get a
medication.
script? What's going on?
We'll send you to the
but
nearest
this
mental ward after
this
the
was
show.
definitely street, not intended.
I believe so.
Not,
I believe
not prescribed for depression.
Confirmed.
Okay, so we should just differentiate between the two things.
Sure.
Because a lot of people that are clinically depressed, and now they're saying Oprah just did a whole thing on how mushrooms can bring you out of anxiety and bring you out of depression, and
ayahuasca
get you into ayahuasca can be the same thing. So yeah, listen, we talked about circuit parties 2 weeks ago, and the drugs in our community are rampant. So whatever healing, whatever money, whatever awareness this person's unfortunate death can bring our community for ketamine in that realm is great.
I think that's the point of this.
Right. And for the people out there who can do it at a nightclub, because ketamine always, the way I think of it is always connects for sound. So if you want to have sex, you're not doing ketamine. If you want to dance your ass off, it's about hearing sound different and seeing lights different. So when you go to a dance club and you could feel the beat and feel that vibration, that's more ecstasy than ketamine. But the way the sound will hit your ears and the way the lights, if you have a really good lighting designer at a nightclub, that's when you do a little bit of ketamine. And mainly
allegedly,
if people want to do it. And if you ever do want to do it, just always try and do it in balance and know where you get your drugs from.
All I can think of is, can you feel the beat within my heart? Name that artist. Lisa. Okay, now.
It's like, wait a minute. Do I know
Recently, moving on, there was some famous LGBTQ celebrities that were giving the top 10 dating advice from people like Kim Chi, Vincent, John Sibley, who we adore. And I wanted to read some of their dating advice, because in one of the Reddits that we can read a little bit later is, dating is hard, y'all. And let's see if some of their dating advice resonates, and then we'll discuss what's our dating advice. Starting off at number 10 was Kim Chi. Take care of yourself first and see if the people that you meet up are genuine and if they really, truly care about you. I like that one.
I agree. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
How can you not agree with that?
Yeah, take care of yourself. I mean... That can mean a lot of things, take care of yourself. If you're not in a good place, and no one's ever perfect, but take care of yourself, feel good about. Somebody else says in this later on, they'd like to do a mosque, as some people like to say in the UK, and really take care of themselves the day of a date. Do you do any special things, Kodi, before you go on a date that makes you feel good?
I haven't been on a date.
Do you have a colonic or anything? Or?
I might jack off beforehand.
Oh.
I don't know. Definitely put on deodorant, though.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah? I don't know. I don't have any rituals for it.
Oh, that's a really good one, too.
Put on deodorant?
Well, sometimes you forget when in the moment, and a lot of people are anti-deodorant, as we discussed on this show with Jeremy Ross Lopez, and I am not one of those people. Where your version of, and of a deodorant. Doesn't have to be an antiperspirant, especially for those that don't sweat
Unless
that
you're not
much.
into that. Some people are not into
So,
that.
yeah.
I think every day of your life is a fucking date. I think you should treat yourself every day. Peter and I do this all the time. We have spa day once a week, sometimes twice a week, where we do a mask or we do a scrub. I meditate every morning for 10 minutes. I always wear deodorant. I have a fragrance line that we're obsessed with, some fragrance lines from Diptyque and Henry Rose and Tom Ford. You should always wear good clothes to go out and be in the public, and having a date shouldn't be that drastically different than your day-to-day taking care of yourself. Hopefully we're all taking care of ourselves.
And since we're talking about,
Eat well,
since we're giving
work
some
out.
of our advice already, and I'll read a few more, but I have to say, whether you call it prayer or set an intention, I do that every single day for what the day looks like ahead. So I project. And if I know there is a date to be had ahead, I actually pray on it or set an intention that what I really want to come out of it, or what I want myself to be open-minded or to receive the person. Or for this show, I set an intention before we did that I'm articulate to get my point across. And even though I haven't gotten some names right.
Well, that one
on
fell
some of
apart.
the-
No, I'm kidding. I'm playing with you.
But I had a lot of stories to tell, but it's worked out. And so 9 times out of 10, it works out for me. And so I said an
That
intention.
is such a good thing to say, Stephen. And I just want to say something quickly about that. Remember the difference between setting an intention or like saying, hey, I want tonight to go really well, and magic. Because if you're dating and this is going to be the one. I want this one to be the one.
Yeah, no.
Or it's going to be this, or it's going to be that. Try not to be, when it comes to setting this intention,
nothing.
be just like, have a good time and be yourself. And in the same vein, if you are dating, know what you want. Because a lot of people go on dates and say, I don't know what I want, and you're not it. And then they keep
And to
moving
your
on.
point, there's an artist, Vincent, and we've talked about
Love
Vincent. Love
Vincent.
Vincent. And one of the things that it really resonated, not all of them resonated with me out of the 10, but this one did. And he wrote, quote, you have to be funny. You have to be able to make fun of yourself, which I love. Also, communication. I love a good communicator, and nothing else matters if you're not open with the person that you're with.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
that can also be
Yeah.
interpreted as just be lighthearted, like you were saying. And this isn't, it's just a meeting, whether it's a cocktail, maybe if it's a meal, a coffee date, a walk in the park. Just keep it light, keep it bright, and tap into what's funny or light about life. And don't talk about politics. And I say keep it light too. I often do a little rehearsal in my head about who I'm going to hang out with. And I do a little top 3 things of the things that I want to remind myself that I want to talk to. So we have like a mutual friend, a girlfriend that we adore. Sometimes there's 3 things that I think about before I see her that, I want to remember to talk to her about this, this, and this. That's just my little checklist, the fun thing. Whether I get to them or not, it prepares me for the meeting. And I think you could do that for a date too.
You know what you just reminded me of? First of all, if you want to run down them, we could say yes or no quickly.
Yeah.
But when I was single, and I would go out with one other person, even just one person or 4 people. I think I've done this with you guys. I don't know. When you go somewhere, you each have to introduce each other to 3 people.
Oh,
Just
that's
make
fun.
it a law at
Let's
the
do it
beginning of the
again.
night.
That's beautiful.
And then someone will go, hey, you know him, you know him, you know him. I'm out. I don't want to do this. And other people might only introduce you to one, but it's a really fun game to just introduce you. It doesn't have to be anything more than that.
It's also
awesome.
called like a really good communication tactic too. That should be normal, but it's not. Have you ever been with people that they don't introduce you to
Oh
their
my
friends, and you're
goodness.
like, "What the fuck?
Who am I, chopped
Who
liver?
are these people that
Yeah.
you just failed to
Like you didn't introduce me tonight. It's the exact same thing.
I didn't want to say
I got
it.
the receipts on here.
I look forward to your rewind because we all know it. It's fine. I'm playing with you. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say just about what you were saying earlier, Steve, was if you get nervous, if you get anxious, if you're all in your head about it, if your palms are sweating and you're walking into it's just because you care. And that's okay. And when you remind yourself, wait, it's only because I care I feel this way, it usually lowers the temper a little bit so you can just be you. You got this.
And can I say 2 things based on that? You can do a tool that you can do is take deep breaths that will help subside that on an interview, you can tell yourself what you just said. On a date, you can also admit it to the person too and say, I'm a little bit nervous. And it just puts that out there.
Yeah.
I would say that though on my interview,
but it
though.
also
See how it's
happens.
going though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I kind of want to say, and I know this goes without saying, but be yourself. You're not trying to put on a facade for anybody out there in the world. So be vulnerable, be yourself, be authentic, and be funny, like you said, because Vincent got a point. Because
And self-deprecating is what he was also trained to say too. Don't be afraid to make fun of yourself and say some of the, because we all want to put our best foot forward, but we're not perfect. They're going to find out if we go on date 4, 5, and 6 that
maybe
I'm not
you
perfect.
aren't. I am perfect.
Okay, well, girl, how's that working out for you?
I gotta big myself up, okay?
Let's read some more. And one of them comes from Mad Sai, who is very cute, actually. I definitely think taking care of your body is the most important thing. Being on PrEP and making sure you have all the materials to be safe is a must.
He's talking about a hookup.
I mean, and I like to, but then he goes on to say, I like doing a face mask, and I feel that's my kind of self-care.
Still talking
That's
about
good.
a
I
hookup.
agree with that.
Okay. Jari Jones goes on to say, my self-care as a trans woman differs from other people in the community. In the morning time, I'm making sure I'm centering myself, that I have the best outfit. I make sure I'm taking care of my mental and sexual health. I'm taking PrEP. Are these all like people that are like getting paid for this to talk about PrEP? I feel like when I check off those things from my list, I'm able to go out in the world and be my best self. Oh, that's good.
That's that same everyday thing. Yep.
Carson Tweller says, one of the greatest blessings of disability has been learning that our bodies can experience pleasure in the most dynamic of ways that most people wouldn't think about. And I think that everyone can benefit from a new idea about sex. And that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that I like
that's a good
that.
one.
Hey, Carson.
Yeah, John Sibley says it's important to feel good when you're going out into a vulnerable situation. And, you know, putting on a shirt that you love, like a color that you love, that makes you feel like a badass bitch.
Black. Sorry, I only wear black.
You only wear black?
Until there's a darker color. I only wear
a-
black.
I have to say I wear a lot of black. You all wear a lot
I
of
We
black.
always
wear a lot of
I-
New
We're New
Yorkers.
Yorkers.
We're all in black at
But
this
you
table.
know what? On a date, I think I tend to wear a color.
You wear a color?
I wear a color, yeah, because black to me is uniform, and I like to go into the world with it's my armor. I feel like is my Wonder Woman like bounce off bracelets.
Yeah.
Black is.
Yeah.
When I'm going on a date, I feel like no, I need to be open and welcoming, and so I choose at least a colorful top. So
Maybe
to John
you should be
Sibley-
welcoming and open all day. Maybe have a different world
Maybe
experience.
you should wear black all the time, darling.
Black doesn't feel like armor to me. It feels like normal. And if you're going to be yourself, why not?
It feels
wear
like
what
if
you
I
always
spill
wear?
something on myself, then it won't show up.
Here's one of my favorite ones that comes from Ryan Jamal Swain. Says, I gave myself grace. I never considered myself to be perfect in any type of way. You can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same time.
Amen.
And that's really powerful, I think, to just give yourself some grace. If you're willing to put yourself out there to meet somebody new, to take the time to go on a coffee date, all those things we listed, give yourself some grace that you showed up. Half of this is showing up. And I love that. I just think that's kind of beautiful.
That's cool.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Let me just get this. This is funny. I just want to do 2 more topics, and it comes from your girl, Tamar Braxton.
I love Tamar.
Tamar Braxton, where she was on a podcast recently, and she got into a whole argument because she used the word. Do you know? She used.
I think I heard a little bit of something about this.
And she said, not all. She learned the hard way that not all gay men want to be called girl or bitch. And she was on a podcast that was actually called Fag Talk, PHAG.
With T.S. Madison.
Talk with T.S.
and
Madison.
Craig the writer.
And
Shout
she
out.
got into it when she thought, because a lot of her gay friends, she says girl, she says bitch, and she was trying to school them, a straight woman was trying to school them, and she learned the hard way. Well, she finally came around because it actually got kind of heated, and she finally said, so here's the thing. Not all gay men want to be called girl or bitch. I'm just learning this. I talk like this every day. That doesn't mean that it's okay. And she came to her conclusion, and I'm okay with. I've never been somebody that has naturally. I mean, I just think I don't naturally throw out a lot of acronyms, and it's just not me. But I do have a couple people. We have a bartender friend at the Eagle that he says she all the time, and I go with it, and I say her and all that. I say bitch sometimes to you, Kodi, and I use it. It's not in my normal vernacular. It's not like a natural thing for me. I'm okay when people use it around me. I don't really have. I'm fine. But I have a feeling maybe you do.
Can I go first? Because I just want to kind of clarify a couple things. They were at a live taping of the podcast. There was an audience. There were people in there. She had a problem with Craig, who is the co-host to T.S. Madison at Fag Talk. And she wanted to address it in this instance. So she was calling him girl, and he was very defensive about it. Ooh. So I think that probably attributed to him not wanting to be called girl in this moment. But something about me tells me, something about this situation tells me that he would be okay with it in a different instance. So I just wanted to put that out there. She was in the audience. She wasn't actually on the podcast, and she was talking to him on the stage.
But she was throwing out girl.
She called him girl a bunch of times, and they were like going back and forth.
And then he called. Well, I think she doesn't really get to do that since she's not part of the community. And if he's corrected her, she shouldn't have gotten so mad about it. And now she has since changed her tune. I mean, not everyone wants to be called that. I'm sort of Switzerland and all this. I really don't care. It's not that serious, to quote Jeremy Russ Lopez. But does it bother you or Lincoln?
Here we go. Like Maya Angelou says, words are important. And they stick to the walls around you. I think it's important. Like this new phrase, that's so cunt. I've never wanted to slip my wrist more in my life than when people walk in.
Use that
word.
My
God, it's so cunt.
C-U-N-T.
That is so cunt. That hat is so cunt. Girl, those shoes are so cunt.
But before people
kill
call
me
each other
now. Put
C-U-N-T.
a knife through my heart. I'm not a girl. You don't need to use words like that. I like the word faggot amongst. Like
but you realize a lot of people don't.
Of course, like I was just finishing, amongst a very few men of my age who I could know that way. I also like the term faggotry in art. Like if I see an artistic thing and there's faggotry in it, like I like that as an idea, but I don't need to throw it down anyone's throat, and I don't like to be. But it doesn't bother me enough to care if someone calls me girl. Okay, that's about.
By the way, that was her point too. She said for a show that uses the word and they spell it differently, faggot. They spell it P-H-A-G.
Yes.
They spell it a different way. So her whole point was like, if you're using that word, but I say they're taking the word and flipping it and using it like queer was reversed back in the day to be a positive thing and not used against us. And so I like that she finally came around because I think, no, girl, like, you're not even in the community. Well, yeah, I know. Well, no, I said I have
actually a girl.
Well, I said I have
I
have no problem using it. I have no problem. I think it's fine.
But like, if you call a woman a girl, that can really offend them because they're a woman.
Which I would never do.
A bunch of people mix and say, "Hey, guys." And I think all of this word salad is why we're so confused and fucked up right now. By the way, but if you go into a room and you call everyone guys. There's women there.
Well, I hear you, and I understand that. World. Everybody gets to determine how they get to be identified. And I think that's the thing. And it varies depending on certain situations. Like, I could be completely comfortable with the two of you calling me girl, but if I get to work and there's somebody there that I don't necessarily vibe with, then them calling me girl could be offensive to me. There's this girl at my job. And oh my God,
she calls you girl.
She calls me mama, and sometimes I've gotten used to it, but it just makes me feel a little old. That's what it is.
The only other thing
I love it.
Whenever I have a conversation like this, I always just want to end it on the thought of all of this is just making us more separate. It's making us more, it's taking over the conversation that we're all human beings. And both of those conversations, I think, should always be had equally.
I hear you.
Yes and
Because
no.
we're people.
I hear you.
It's like being an American.
We all are human beings, but we all also identify in different ways. I think it's making us more aware.
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying.
It's separating us.
You know what?
It's making us aware of our separation.
And I can see that, Lincoln. I can see that that it could be separating us more. But also, I feel like in order for us to combat that, we need to take notice that it's separating us.
That's why I just said what I said.
I get you.
Let's end the conversation on, if it helps me understand you more, great.
Yeah,
then we'll be
and that's
closer.
What my point is. That it's going to make us. It's also making us understand each other more. But in order for us to lessen the separation that it is, we first have to acknowledge that that's what it's doing. It's separating us.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, so much fun in studio. As always with the both of you, you can always follow my co-host on social media. You can follow Lincoln at his Protein Bakery, which is in New York, Chelsea on 19th Street between 6th and 7th.
I just had a visitor from the podcast actually this week named Chris this weekend. He was very cool. We took a photo. I'll give it to you to put up.
Hey,
please.
If you want. Yeah,
I would
very
love
cute.
to. Oh my gosh, I need the white chocolate chip, dark, what is it?
You're good with the titles this episode. You're doing bang up. It's the bakery protein blonde cookie. It's a chocolate white chip cookie.
Love
Steve.
it.
You're going to be okay.
It's my current favorite one. Follow him on Instagram at Protein Bakery, but follow his personal account at Mad Lincoln. Follow Kodi on the gram at Mr. Maurice, but follow him on Blue Sky as well at the same handle at Mr. Maurice. Follow me on the gram. I am _Stevie, or go to my X or Blue Sky account where you get a preview of my Just for Fans or Only Fans, and that is at TAGSPodcast, at TAGSPodcast. And guys, in the meantime, continue having
hot
gay
sex
out of your butt.
In your butt.